Welcome back. You are tuned in to Traders Nation. My pleasure to have with us here today best-selling book author Martin Yate. Knocking them dead in 2010, the ultimate job search guide. Martin, welcome to Traders Nation. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good, Kurt. Yourself?
Good. Thank you for asking. Thanks for being here, too, by the way. Hey, Martin, with unemployment in double digits, there's far more people out there competing for that one job that's out there. How does somebody looking for a job, how do they stand out in all this crowd?
Well, the first thing we got to do, Kurt, and the most financially important document anyone listening today will ever own is their resume. And yet when we come to a job search, what we do is and I'm quoting a million people who've said this to me over the years, I'm going to dust off the old resume and update it. It doesn't work anymore because our resumes historically have been simple recitations of all the things we've done, and they look like Swiss Army knives.
Sure.
No one hires a Swiss Army knife today. And the way we write our resumes has to change because the way companies recruit has changed. It's all done by the internet now. The odds of me getting my resume under Kurt Schwemmer's name right now is much smaller than it used to be. Now that resume is going to go into a database with, some of them, the big ones like Career Builder Monster, they've got 35 million plus resumes in them.
Sure.
It's going to go into a resume database, and it's got to be pulled out of that resume database before it's even seen by human eyes. So what I do at the beginning of the new Knock 'em Dead, the 2010 Knock 'em Dead, is talk about how you customize a resume for this market that will get it pulled out of the database and will resonate in front of human eyes once it gets there.
All right, Martin, so how does the resume get updated? What is the new resume tool today, and how's it supposed to look, Martin?
Well, what we need to do, we can all, after just 3 years in the professional world, we can all do a couple of jobs. When we've been there 10, 20, 25 years, maybe do half a dozen jobs. What we have to do is look at that and say, of these half a dozen jobs I can do, which is the one I can really nail?
Right.
Which is going to be the easiest sell for me and the easiest buy for the company? And we create a resume around our prime target job.
Right.
Doesn't mean to say we can't go after the other jobs, because they're going to be related, and we simply, once we've completed our prime resume, we make duplicate copies of it, save it under other titles, and edit it out to show the slightly different focus.
Right.
But when we understand, when we build a resume around this prime job, what we have to do, and in the book I take people through something called a target job deconstruction exercise, where we look at job postings and we see, given what the job title we're going after is, how employers are prioritizing the needs of that job, how they're expressing it.
Sure.
This gives us a template for the story our resume needs to tell. Makes a huge difference.
All right, so that resume needs to focus on what they're going after as far as a position's concerned. So are you saying, should we have like historical job information there, or should we focus on that one core item that company's looking for, and then have tentacle information coming right after that on our resume?
Well, what I suggest people do, Kurt, is collect 6 or 10 job postings for that target job, and we basically deconstruct and we find out what are the needs that are common to all 10, then the needs that are common to 9, all the way down, and then we capture the words they're using. And when we look at this, we know the story our resume has to tell, and we begin to build a resume around that. But the front end of our resume looks different than it does in the past.
Right.
None of us have ever read a book or watched a movie or a TV show that didn't have a title.
Right.
8 out of 10 resumes don't have a target job title.
Martin, it almost sounds to me like a Google analytical process,
Yeah, Kurt, you're exactly right.
It's like a science.
So when a recruit, no one ever goes into the office in the morning and says, it's a lovely day in the neighborhood, I'm going to read resumes today.
Right.
They only go and read resumes or go into a database when there is a specific position exists that's been carefully codified, budgeted, authorized, and the funds released. They're going to slap in a job title. They're going to put in the words that they developed in creating the position description.
All right, so we got our resume together. Let's say we got it together, we've got it nailed down, and we've been called on for an interview. What's the do's and the don'ts when going into an interview today?
Okay, if I only said one thing, it would be this.
Yeah.
Every job at its core is one of problem identification and solution. Whatever your job title is, you're there to solve the problems that crop up every day, and you're there to identify the problems as they come over the horizon to stop them exploding in your face.
Right.
Now, if we can accept that, you then look at your deconstruction of the job, and you say, for each of these responsibilities, for each of these deliverables of the job, what are the problems that occur every day?
Right.
And how do I prevent them occurring if I possibly can? And if we begin to think of ourselves as a problem solver first and foremost within a specific area of expertise, now we know what the employer really wants to talk about. Right. Because when they ask you a question, it's not a matter of saying, oh yeah, I can do that. It's, yeah, I can do that. And, the big challenges in this area, What are the kind of problems you're having in this area? We turn a one-way examination of skills into a two-way conversation between a couple of professionals with a common interest and a real understanding of what's at the heart of the job.
Right. Well, you're exactly right. I think you hit a key word here. And companies, not only do they love it, I can save you money or make you money, but problem solve. I think you're right onto something here, because when the guy asks you or the gal asks you, can you solve problems, or they ask you whatever the question that comes to solving problems, not only do you say, yes, I can solve problems, but it would be how beneficial to them if you said, this is how I would do it.
Yeah, and solve problems, and in the area we're talking about, these are the problems that come down the pike every day.
Sure.
This is what my bread and butter is. And we take it from a non-specific answer into the heart of the job. Yeah. And if all the listeners today, let's walk over the other side of the desk and sit down there, and you've got two candidates in front of you. One says, oh, yes, I'm a good problem solver, and this is how you solve a problem. Right. And the other says, that plus goes into specific problem-solving examples in that area of responsibility. It's a no-brainer for who we're going to go for.
Right. All right. So during that process, I know people try to trip up the person they're interviewing. They try to ask them, I don't want to say trick questions, but there are some out there. What are the pitfalls on answering certain questions that employers may try to trip you up during the interview process?
You're thinking something like, what's your greatest strength, which is easy, but
sure.
Coming right behind it is what's your greatest weakness.
Right, exactly.
So what we do, and the first half of Knock 'em Dead is all about getting interviews, and the second half is all about turning the interviews into job offers.
Right.
When we come to things with like, what's your greatest weakness? There's a number of options you have. Number one, put it in the past, make it small, show how you learned from it, and how it's not a problem anymore.
Nice.
And perhaps the best one, though, is to look at your job and identify a problem with the job that everyone has difficulty with, and it might be the challenge of keeping up with the new technology that changes the way I do my job every day.
Nice.
If you start off with that, the employer is going to recognize, wow, yeah, that's something we all deal with. And then you can go on to talk about what you do to stay abreast.
Right. All right. So
and it's an honest answer. Right. It's going to resonate, and it's also not a black mark against you.
We all have weaknesses, no doubt about that. So don't emphasize it. Lay it out short and sweet. Get onto it. Right. All right. So out of sight, out of mind. What's the best way to stay back in touch with the person that interviewed you? Because you don't want to bug them, but you have to show that interest. You have to have those follow-ups.
There's something a phrase from the world of advertising called TOMA, stands for Top of the Mind Awareness.
Yeah.
And every day that goes by after your interview and while they're interviewing others, your memory dims.
Right.
So what you do depends on whether the decision's going to be made at 5 o'clock this afternoon, 5 o'clock next Monday, or 5 o'clock a month from now. So it has to be paced that way. If it's an immediate response, first thing you do when you get out of an interview is, number one, you sit down and you make notes. What went well? What went badly? What were the topics that covered? What could you have added if you weren't nervous in the heat of battle, which we all are?
Sure.
And having done that, you have the meat for a follow-up letter. Follow-up letter always starts with when and where you met and what you were talking about.
Yeah.
It identifies your interest in the job, and then it adds some pluses. I was thinking about the interview afterwards, Kurt, and in the heat of the moment, I wished I'd added A, B, and C. Give some more information about yourself.
Sure. Personalize it, right, Martin? I mean, they should personalize it because everybody knows when they get a form letter. So you're saying personalize it and do it right out of the gate in the first paragraph. All right, there you have it. Martin Yates with us today, Knock 'em Dead 2010. Martin, thanks for your time here today. We'll be right back.
Pleasure, Kurt.
You're more than welcome.